Now, time for this week's Toyota Talks.
All right, day 2 of spring training here for the Cubs, and we are joined now by ESPN 1000's Jesse Rogers. Jesse, talking to some of the guys in the clubhouse, it really feels like the word they've been using is unfinished business. And you look at that heartbreaking loss in the NLDS there to the Brewers. I imagine going into the offseason, they're extremely motivated. Day 2 here, what have you observed so far with this team?
Well, let me pick up that vibe, that thread you just mentioned here, because I was here a decade ago when in 2015 the Cubs made it to the playoffs, eventually lost in the NLCS, and then came back and won the World Series in 16. And I distinctly remember Chris Bryant right here in the building in the clubhouse talking about early in 16 picking up where they left off in 15. And that might be the vibe we're feeling here. Now, there's a whole new pitching staff, bullpen-wise, so some things have to be figured out, but there is that kind of a vibe of picking up where they left off last year, and that's a great thing because you want last year to be the foundation and you want the ceiling to be the World Series, of course. So that's the feeling I get. I don't know if it's exactly the same as 15 to 16, but it kind of works 25 to 26, right? A decade later, we'll see how this all turns out. But first things first, we got to get these pitchers and catchers on the same page because, like I said, it's a brand new bullpen along with Edward Cabrera and the starting staff.
Yeah, let's talk about Edward Cabrera there because this starting rotation last season saw a lot of injuries, but obviously adding someone like him. I talked to Jed Hoyer yesterday. He said he's someone that his pitching staff, they've been enamored by, right? And they've been interested in him too the last few seasons. What do you think adding an arm like him does for this rotation?
Well, it's dynamic, and at its best, it could be the best in the group, to be honest. But he's not quite reached his peak yet, and I think that's what excites the Cubs. Look, the Marlins, they can develop pitchers. So if the Cubs take a somewhat finished product and finish him off, that could be something special. So live arm, nasty stuff, got to keep him healthy, of course. Get the best out of him. I'm not saying he needed to change the scenery, but sometimes new eyes, new voices can help a guy reach his potential. It's happened for the Cubs. It's happened when guys leave the Cubs. It's part of the game. So let's see what he can do. What's Edward Cabrera's ceiling? I think everybody around here wants to know that.
We've heard so far from Craig Counsell yesterday, Carter, Jed Hoyer as well. Were you surprised though when Craig gave you the scoop there about Daniel Palencia being their closer?
I kind of was. I was. This guy that lost that job late last year wasn't sent to the bench or anything. He pitched important innings in the playoffs. They just were not in the ninth inning. So to come back after a 5 ERA in the second half and on day one, Counsell say, yes, he's my closer, I thought that was interesting. Could be he's the closer right now. That could change. It could be just a confidence boost for him. Could be that he truly believes it and he's going to do it. And but it is day one, and normally Craig isn't that. Most managers aren't that committed to someone in that role that is not an established 5 or 10 year veteran. So I thought that was interesting, but I think it was calculated. I don't think it just came out. I think he I don't know if he planned to say it unless he was asked, but he went for it, and I kind of like that idea. There's no one else that's an obvious candidate. He's got to get to know all these new arms. Why not give Palencia a first shot?
You mentioned Jed Hoyer here, completely overhauling, rebuilding this bullpen. What do you make of some of the new faces here? And I know Hobie Milner, someone that's familiar with Craig Counsell with their time there in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's interesting. The second half last year, that bullpen was really good. Brad Keller found his stride, was key. Pomerantz, obviously, a few of the other guys. There's a couple guys back, Palencia and Thielbar, but Hunter Harvey, live arm, got to keep him healthy. Phil Maton can really spin the ball, will be a really good setup man, like underrated kind of guy. I would say it's a collection of great possibilities, but it has to come together. Everyone talks about bullpens being volatile, so you kind of got to wait and see. Hopefully Craig doesn't need a whole month of April to figure it out with these guys. These are veterans. Maybe he can learn them in February and March and be ready to rock and roll in April. But sometimes it takes time. But I will say this: it's a collection of interesting arms that just needs to come together.
Today is the second day here for pitchers and catchers. Although we do have some of the position players here, they are here. They're hungry as well. Alex Bregman, I know he went home sick earlier today. But what have been some of your conversations with the players in terms of what having a guy like him here in the clubhouse does?
Yeah, I've known Alex a long time, and I've seen him be that glue guy on other teams. Now let's remember, Tina, this team won 92 games last year without Alex Bregman. They got to the second round of the playoffs, game 5 without Alex Bregman. So, I was joking with someone when he went home sick. What are the Cubs going to do today? They don't have Alex Bregman because he is getting a lot of attention, but understandably so. He is a glue guy, meaning not only does he bring together like the fellow infielders, that's obvious, but it's like crossing lines with nationalities, and pitchers and infielders and outfielders, and like that's something Justin Turner did last year, and he's moved on. So I think that will fall on Bregman. I mean, I think, we use the word glue guys. Nico Horner's a glue guy in his own way, Dansby in his own way, but Bregman kind of is sort of the peak version of a glue guy, and I think that's what we'll see over time here.
What are you hearing in terms of around the league and how they're viewing the Cubs? Because obviously you're in conversations with a lot of people here around the MLB, but specifically, how are they viewing this team? Because this is a veteran group, right, that got a taste of a postseason run last year, and it's pretty clear, even hearing from Ben Brown just moments ago, they want to get back there. They want to make it back to the postseason and go way deeper.
It's interesting you asked that because late in the offseason, I did get a text from an executive. I guess it was after they signed Bregman, and he said, man, it's too bad the Cubs aren't in the American League, because the American League's a little bit softer these days, mostly because the Dodgers are in the NL, but the high-priced Mets are still there. Obviously, the Blue Jays are good. So I guess I would say they're in a stacked league, and Milwaukee's still around in the division, but there's no reason the Cubs can't win the division, and then you take your chances after that. But I think they'd be favorites in the American League, not so much with the Dodgers around in the NL.
You look at a player like Pico Armstrong. I mean, last season, really great first half, and then after the All-Star break, saw him kind of drop a little bit. I feel like for him going into this year, really aiming to be consistent is the main thing. But what kind of step forward do you want to see him take?
Maturity at the plate. I think they're already working with him on just staying a little bit more compact. When you start to struggle a little bit, you can start to get out of yourself even more. And there was a lot of lunging going on and longer strides, and pitchers will take advantage of that. So they want to get him back to being compact and quicker. I mean, the way these guys can throw the ball on the mound, you can't get out of your mechanics. You have to stay very tight and very small as much as you can, and then explode when you get that pitch. So I think just maturing a little bit. Some people will say, is he still going to throw his bat? I don't view. I want to see him maturing in the batter's box. If he throws his bat and that's just who he is, but he hits 30 home runs, what do I care, right? So I think it's more, to me, when I say maturing, it's just as a hitter. He's kind of a emotional player. I don't have a problem with that.
When you look at PCA, Michael Busch, Moises Ballesteros, all of those guys are left-handed batters, but you add in someone like Bregman, a right-handed hitter there. What do you think that does lineup-wise for Craig Counsell? What kind of flexibility does that give them?
I think that's a great point. Last year they were not great when facing left-handed pitching. Part of that was Justin Turner didn't really live up to his billing as that specialist, and Michael Busch didn't play against lefties. Now Michael Busch is going to play against lefties. PCA we know is going to play against lefties. There may be some struggles, but you'll see the fruits of that labor later in the season. I think they'll get better against lefties. But while they struggle, if they struggle, you got a guy like Bregman who should mash lefties. So there is a good balance there. Against righties, they should be fine. I think they need to be better against lefties, and kind of switching out the lefty Tucker for the righty Bregman is not necessarily a terrible thing.
Do you feel, though, that there's maybe more stability, though, on this roster, despite there being some really new faces here in the bullpen, though, compared to seasons prior? Well,
let's start with the fact that they added Bregman and did not subtract any of the other infielders like Matt Shaw, right? So now Matt Shaw is going to get run in the outfield, but he's also going to get plenty of time at third, second. Horner's going to move over to short. Maybe Shaw gets some time at short. This will be one of the deeper teams we've seen since really the championship team, because Ben Zobrist and Javi Baez were sort of those guys that moved around, and they were regular. They could have been starters on other teams. So that's Matt Shaw now. So that's why I like this team better than last year. That one extra player now that they've added Bregman and didn't subtract from that other core.
I know you're going to be out here at spring training for a while. What are some storylines that you're going to be keeping your eyes on?
Well, I just mentioned him, Matt Shaw, how he takes to the outfield and how he incorporates his offensive game to moving around the diamond, because that can impact him, right? If he's so overwhelmed with the outfield and takes his fielding to the plate, or his plate out to the, you know what I'm saying? I want to see how he handles it all. I have no doubt that he will, but I want to see it happen, okay? So that's number one. Number two is all these new arms. How do they fit in? I want to learn Phil Maton and Hunter Harvey and Hobie Milner. Not household names yet, but come the 8th inning of Game 2, everyone's going to be like, whoa, who's our guy out there, right? So learning that bullpen, learning what makes Edward Cabrera tick a little bit, watching Matt Shaw in the outfield, and just seeing Alex Bregman up close every day are some of the things I'm watching.
Maybe give us some under the radar players that you think fans should kind of keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, I think some people might say Kevin Alcantara, but I think there's a couple of minor league guys, McCormick, spring invites McCormick and Dylan Carlson that are likely to make this team. One of them.
Okay.
I think they want a veteran outfielder backing up young PCA or the fact that Shaw first time out there. I think McCormick or Carlson are likely to make this team. I'm not sure where Kevin Alcantara fits in. Going back to him. Catching wise, Carson Kelly, we know what he's about. Where's Miguel Amaya's ceiling? This is kind of the year to me. If he's healthy, Miguel Amaya really should assert himself. I don't think they want to see Carson Kelly playing that many innings. So remember, Miguel Amaya was a big-time prospect, kind of receded a little bit, was off to a good start last year and then got hurt. I want to see Miguel Amaya take that next step.
Jesse Rogers, as always, thank you so much for your time. We're going to be enjoying this Arizona sunshine, huh?
I need it. Thank you, Tina.